Okay, so there's the tail gearbox installed. I haven't done up these screws tight yet because I've still got to get the boom in there, but basically that's the gearbox installed there, as you can see. So the next job is to insert the boom into the end there, and then we can put on the tail boom supports and the horizontal fin. We've also got to install the tail bell crank, which goes at the back here, so that the push rod on the boom can link up with the push rod that goes down the side of the model to the tail servo at the front here. So we've also got that to do. Okay, so there we have our tail boom installed. Take note that there is a locator pin inside the gearbox casing here, and you'll need to have the Outrage logo that's written on the boom, both sides, front and well, left and right effectively. You'll need that lined up so that that locator, which is on the left hand side of the boom, locates into the gearbox locator, which is on the left hand side of the gearbox, and then the boom will actually go in. But if you don't get that lined up, the boom is definitely not going to go in. So bear in mind that there is a locator pin in there and a slot in the boom, and you must get them lined up before trying to shove that boom in. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is put together the bell crank, which goes up the back here and connects to this rod here to send the control inputs from the tail rotor down the boom. Okay, so here we have those parts. First job is to mount up this bell crank with these parts here, and probably that screw there, so that we've got the relevant balls on here for our bell crank, and then we can mount this piece onto the boom. Sorry, onto the location point where that actually fits, which is kind of on the I can't see where it goes at the moment, just bear with me one moment. Okay, just realised where that part actually goes. The tail gearbox actually came with these two screws pre-installed, but actually this one here should be up here, and then this piece actually fits down underneath there for the bell crank to go on. So I just need to take this screw out here, and then this can be mounted underneath. Okay, and that's got it. So you can see the two bolts and nuts on the top, and then the bracket that's going to hold the bell crank underneath, and Loctited through with two long screws to hold that in place, and also act as part of the clamping mechanism for the boom. So our bell crank then goes on here effectively. So I'll now make up this bell crank and we can install that onto there. Okay, and there we have our bell crank installed, and it's bolted in from above, so make sure you put your screw in from above, and you have the longer link here out to the side and the shorter link, as you can see there, underneath the boom, and the push rod connects onto that shorter link, and then the link from here goes back to the servo at the front of the model. Okay, so that's the tail bell crank installed. So I haven't set the length of this rod yet, that's yet to be done. I've also got to install the front link. Let me just zoom out a little bit. Okay, so there's a front link that's going to go from here back to here, so that the output from the servo can be transferred by the bell crank at the back here down the boom. We've also got to put on the boom supports and the horizontal fin, so I'll do the boom supports and the horizontal fin next, and then this tail rotor linkage. Okay, so here we have our boom supports. We've got our bracket for mounting our horizontal fin, and then the various nuts and bolts and things for mounting it up. We've got the 2 small screws here and the washers, which will go on the top here through the horizontal fin, and then we've got these cap headed screws and washers which go at the back on the horizontal clamp in the sides here, and then other parts which I've not got there for you to see. Hang on, let's get those. And there we go, these. Those bolt onto the back of the frames and allow you to secure your boom supports to them. And then we have one more frame spacer, which is that one there, which goes in the middle of between the frames, and then we've got some extra long screws which I've got in the packet here. Let's grab those. There we go, extra long screws and the washers to hold those boom supports at the frame end in place. Okay, so there we can see the tail boom supports installed at the rear here, and then we come up the boom. Under the camera there you can see the horizontal stabilizer installed, and everything in place. So that's the tail boom supports, horizontal fin all sorted. Okay, and the last job I mentioned in this build step is putting on the control rod, which goes from the tail servo to the bell crank we just installed. So we just need to put ball link on either end and then install that onto the machine. Okay, and there you see the push rod installed onto the servo and on the bell crank, and the only work I've got to do really is getting the length of my tail push rod down here, which you can see here, getting the length of that right. Okay, and there you see the push rod installed, and that's working the bell crank at the back there. So the only bit remaining for me to do now is to get the length of this push rod right here for setting up the tail servo and gyro, so that it's holding correctly and giving me a proper tail response. So I'm not going to connect that one just yet because I've got some adjustment to do on that to get that right. Okay, so the next thing we're moving on to is installing the head and the main gear into the machine and connecting up the push rods to the swash plate. So that's the next job.